Yeah.
All right, we are live. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Ride 2021 Ride Con presented by Rolling Out. I'm your host Jackie Clarke today, and I have a special guest in the building with me, Mr. Kevin Ross. What is up?
I can't complain. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. I hope you're blessed. I hope everything is well with you, considering the times we're living in.
Granted, yes, everything is well. Yeah.
So, Kevin, for those who may be living under a rock, who may not know who you are, know about your music, let the people know who is Kevin Ross.
Kevin Ross, born and raised in Washington, D.C., singer, songwriter, producer, and now label owner of Art Society Music Group.
Congratulations on being a
Thank you.
label owner and all the
Yes.
success that you've garnered thus far and the success to come. So I'm super excited for this conversation. We're really going to be talking about independent music and what it really means to be an independent music artist.
Yes.
Um, you know, what what does independent music mean to you? What does it mean to be the owner of your own music?
It means freedom,
Mm.
complete autonomy, and then understanding your worth and your value that you bring to the table and to the industry as well.
Mm.
Yeah.
I love that because back in the day, a lot of everybody wanted to be with labels and sign with labels, and now what do young up and coming musicians need to know about being an independent artist? If there was something someone could have told you when you first started, what would you say? these days?
Bet on yourself. You know what I mean? And this is kind of like a thing that I'm saying nowadays, as far as like, in order for you to distribute the power that you want to other people, you actually have to know how powerful you are. So, it's about self awareness and then understanding your full potential. What is your purpose? What's your, what's the expectation for, 6 months, a year, 5 years, 10 years, right? And then you go from there. I think people are, especially like maybe 10 years ago when, a lot of acts felt like they had to be signed to major labels, they were kind of just like, I hope that this is accepted. I hope that this company likes me. And so you don't even really fully understand what you're capable of, but yet you distribute all of your talent, your ability, your power, your energy
What's the
to
expectation
those that,
6 months, a year,
may
5?
not understand, what you're capable of. There is an echo though too, so
I just heard it. Yes,
got you,
yes.
got
We
you, got
just
you.
we just
But
closed that out. Where's that
no, no,
coming
no,
from?
no, you're good. But truthfully, I think that's the biggest thing is just like understanding your power, understanding your
Mm.
value, knowing your worth, and then betting on yourself. Because it's going to take a lot of sacrifice. You just can't expect you to make good music and then for it to be heard. You know, it's a sea of it's like thousands, tens of thousands of songs that are released every day. What
Mm.
makes yours different, and how do people know that your quality is different? How are you going to bring them into your world? And I think that's a very important component as well for up and coming artists.
I love that you talked about that. Earlier today, I was listening in on a panel conversation with Black entertainment lawyers, and it was a very powerful conversation. We actually have it up in the replay, and it was speaking about, one, betting on yourself is super important. You're going to have naysayers, you're going to have believers, but you ultimately have to believe in yourself and your craft. But I love what you said about understanding where you want to be in 4, 5, 10 years from now, because one of the lawyers had made a comment that now with the generation of artists, we only got about 10 years.
Yeah,
If an artist can have a good 10 years worth of career, you got
yeah,
that 10 years to make your money.
yeah,
And then you got to try to seed the rest. So really having goals and figuring out, okay, give yourself a 10-year bracket, but what else are you going to do with your brand, with your business within that time to
yeah.
continue to have that wealth of growth? So I love that. So the business model of music has changed significantly. So how would you describe the top three changes of the industry?
The top three changes for, I mean, for obviously DSPs, digital streaming platforms, was like, I mean, by far at the top of the list for sure. You know what I mean? But then also, this big distribution boom in the sense of, your Empires, your United Masters. I mean, E1 has kind of been around. Your
Yep.
AWOLs. You know what I mean? There's so many different distribution situations that you can kind of navigate through that offer different services as well. So I think that has been kind of a huge thing as well. And then I think third, I would just say the culture. I'd say social media as well, and how powerful it is and how effective it is as it pertains to creating a narrative for yourself. You know what I mean? I think that's the most important part, is making sure that your fans, no matter how big or small, understand the journey that you're on and that they understand who you are. So if it's just about the music, then they understand that. But if it's a little more to it, then they should be able to dive in a little more, because now we have these platforms that are available to kind of open up our life in a way.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
You said something so profound there, which is really social media. I tell, my clients, I tell people I work with, we have our own network now. It's
yeah,
not like back in the day, and this goes to no matter what industry where you had to have somebody else put you on.
mm,
You have the capability to create your own network or your
yeah,
own Kevin Ross network and really be more involved. And it's not like artists are clapping back now. It's not like before you couldn't do anything, you couldn't say anything.
yeah,
You're able to really have a say in your career and the things that you do. So the three top pillars you spoke about were really important, but a lot of people still don't understand the power of social media. It is
yeah,
still media. Media is in the word. It's still a form of press. And so,
absolutely.
you've got to use your Instagram or your Spotify as a website, as, your digital EPK to
Yeah,
really project yourself in a way to be seen
yeah,
and producing the best quality that you can for yourself, because it is a representation of your music, of your brand,
yeah.
and then, speaking of brand, how does one build a music brand?
uh, Putting out music, that's number one. That's the obvious. But I mean, more so, creating a music brand is just like being in a relationship with somebody, right?
Mm,
It's about maintenance. It's about making sure that you create a level of consistency within your audience. So whether it's 10 people that are watching, you want to make sure that those 10 people are engaged so that they can tell another 10, so then you can get 20. That 20 goes into, the power of multiples. But
of course.
at the end of the day, it's about making sure that you are in tune with your audience, but then
Mm,
also making sure that you're evolving, that you're growing. Because the beauty of it is this: a lot of people will sit there and just be like, I don't think I'm ready to put anything out. I don't think that I'm ready to show the world what I'm capable of. I'm not there yet because I'm not like this other person. And it's like, that's not the journey that you should be on, because people want to see you where you're at,
mm,
because and you want to see where you're at, because you want to have some level of documentation to say, damn, that's how I sounded last year. Wow, thank God for growth, right? Or progress. So to see the elevation of it, you coming out the gate just blazing, full HD, you know what I'm saying, video, whoop, 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 whoop. Nowadays within our culture, it'll make you feel like you like an industry plant. It's not real. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like you literally virtually just come out of nowhere. So there has to be some level of growth in order for people to, evolve and take that journey with you.
I love that because one of the questions I've always had. I'm not an artist. I can't sing to save my life, though I wish I could. One of the things that I've always wanted to know about artists: how do you grow with your artists? How do you grow with your audience? Because when you look at artists who started out this way and
Mhm.
people love their sound from back in the day,
Yeah,
and now you've elevated. You're older now. You may be in your late 20s or 30s.
yeah.
You've had kids. How do you keep? You talked about journey. Can you give us a little bit more definitive of how do you keep that audience to grow with you? Because some people, when I look at artists online, people are like, oh, I wish I could, I wish so and so would sing like how they used to be. Like, some people are a huge fan of like Mariah Carey 90s, not now. How do
Yeah.
you keep that elevation and grow with your audience and take them on that journey?
I think, I mean, a part of that is that you're on the journey of life with them. So
Mm,
as they're looking for a family and looking for love and all that stuff, like you're probably doing the same thing. Your life may be scheduled a little different,
mm,
but at certain points it's a reflection of one another. But then most importantly too, getting back to what you were saying, is this: we are in the business of servitude as artists,
mm,
right? So beyond anything, we are here to service the masses. We're here to service our audience. So that means we have to be in tune. So even if we're in our own little world out in the desert or in some little tent or remote place, we do have to check in, right? Because you'll hear
mm.
artists be like, nah, I'm not on social media. Nah, I don't give them that. I don't do this. Ah. And it's like, yeah. And that's how you get those comments to say, such and such is out of touch. Such and
Mhm.
such doesn't make that kind of music anymore because their life now is more remote. They've set themselves apart or away, distance themselves from the public and from their fan base. So it's hard for them to understand where the pulse of the culture is because
Mhm.
it's so far removed. And so I think it's a part of our job as glorified servants in a way,
Mhm.
uh, entertainers, to make sure that we, if we're not on social media, but just watch every now and then, just to see what's
Check
going
in.
on, check in. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like feel the pulse of the culture to see where it's going and to see how your art, can evolve and help or assist what's going on.
Absolutely. My also question to that though is I understand the tap in and you do have to stay. It's like news. You got to keep up as much as you might not want to watch what's happening. You have to know what's happening around you to be
Yeah,
prepared. But then the question now becomes is, when we're talking about building a music brand, there's the music, but then there's the personal. There's a fine line between
yeah,
how much you show and how much you retain for yourself because it is energy. So
yeah,
I know I've heard some artists talk about they feel like they got to show everything, and then to your point, some people show they don't got to show enough. What is that fine line for an artist? How much do you, for you personally, how much do you gauge to show of your personal, and then choose to keep private because you want to protect your peace and your energy?
yeah. I think every situation and every artist is different, right?
Mm.
The beauty of what we do is it is about setting habits, right?
Mm.
So if you're an artist to say, I'm gonna come out every year, rain or shine, there's gonna be a project that drops every year or every 6 months or whatever your schedule is. So no matter how big or small your audience is at the time, they get on a schedule with you. They know that Kevin doesn't drop anything from January to March or April because he's probably working on da da da. But as soon as May, June comes around, he's gearing up or he's releasing something, right? So,
Mm.
but every artist is different. You have to look at it like a TV show. If you're a network, right? If you're a network, then we know that like one of my favorite shows on television is Snowfall, right? But they only got 10 episodes damn near every season. So whether I choose to binge watch or wait every week, I know that after those 10 episodes, I'm not gonna get Snowfall probably for another year and a half,
Mm. Mm. Makes sense.
right? So, but I'm accustomed to that. And then as soon as the next season comes out and there's promos, I'm locked in and I'm excited. It doesn't make me any less of a fan because of the fact that it takes them a year and a half
Of
in order
course.
to create the next season. It's about making sure that the audience understands. I'm on the schedule with them. I'm on the schedule with
Mhm.
certain shows, certain series where it's just kind of like I understand. That doesn't mean it's like screw them. It's the more inconsistent situation where we've had those shows where it's like what happened? Like
And
yeah,
that.
y'all just
Yes, yes.
so we've had those moments. So we have to consider our music just like that in the sense that we have to put our audience on the schedule. We have to put ourselves on the schedule to make sure that we level the expectation
I
so
love
that it's like because we'll have those creative spurts to say, man, I could put out records each and every day, each and every week, and
Mm.
then life happens
Yeah.
and your audience is used to you doing a certain thing, and you're like, I gotta fall back, I gotta take a step back. It's like, nah.
Yeah.
You gotta keep your word. You gotta be consistent. If you start a certain way,
Finish
you
a
gotta
certain
follow
way.
that. Yeah, you gotta follow it through.
I love that. And one thing they say about social media or about your brand in general is consistency is key. So, guys, if you guys are listening, Kevin just dropped some real gems. You want to make it, you got to be consistent. Your audience people are into patterns. This is what I've noticed about people in general. We follow patterns and consistency. So, the more your patterns are consistent, the more your audience relates. So, you as an independent artist, and it's just you, but what kind of team do you bring around you? Because
Yeah,
you hear these things. You need a manager, you need a road manager, a security, a publicist, a lawyer. You need all of these things. What kind of team
Mhm.
should an independent artist, and it's different for everybody, but what type of team should an independent artist be looking for?
It all varies. It does, because here's the thing: if you're an artist that's more so a recording artist and you don't necessarily like to tour, then you don't need a road
Mm.
manager, right? If like I said, it all depends. I think the best thing for every artist to understand is that you do need a team. No matter how big or small, it's going to take more than you in order
Absolutely.
to get it done. You're going to have to lean on, people's energies at times when yours ain't feeling right, or sometimes you have to rally everyone that's around you in order for them to be on your wavelength. Um, but I think that, especially within independence, you
Mm.
have to understand the theory of scale, right? To be able to say, okay, you know what? This cycle, as far as album cycle, I may only be able to afford this level of PR at
Mm.
$2,500 a month for 3 months. You know what I mean, minimum. Damn, I really wanted to do, radio. Or damn, I really wanted to do a night show. And for most people, they don't understand it, especially for a night show. You pay for that look.
Mm.
You just don't get on a goddamn night show. You don't get on Fallon just because Jimmy Fallon or Jimmy Kimmel likes you. It's the fact
Mm.
that, one, you're visible enough for them to even take you into consideration.
Mm.
Two, everyone that's working from the lights to the sound, everyone that helps as far as to bring it on stage, they all work a
Yeah.
union rate, which, surprise, you pay for. So for night shows, you have to prepare for on average maybe 15 grand for a look,
Wow.
right? So for certain, like an artist like myself, I chose, because I'm still scaling, I have to decide on whether or not to say, okay, am I going to do radio,
Mm.
PR, or am I going to do PR, a night show? What am I going to do? What's going to be the best bang for my buck, right? So I decided to say, you know what, I'm going to opt out of the night show for this cycle, but I'm coming back for it in 2022, right? But
Mm.
now I understand, what my price points are, my, you know what I mean, like the
Yeah.
next level as far as in scaling. And so I think for every artist, make sure that you understand the theory of scale. It's okay if you don't have everything for the album cycle, but just make sure that whatever that you do have, that is effective. You want to
Mm.
make sure that within our independent careers, that our goal is to be profitable.
Mm.
Our goal is to make sure that we keep our lights on with what we love to do. And I
Absolutely.
understand that could be hard sometimes, but when you get into that stride and into that groove and you find the different avenues that champion you, where you're not just tolerated, but you're
Mm.
appreciated, that, you know what I mean? That ROI look different now. Come on.
I, I love this. What I love is this, just the wealth of what you're talking about is so
Yeah.
seasoned. And these are things that you'd hear like a baby face and all these things. So it lets me know that you've done the work, you've done the groundwork to understand. And you talked about scalability. A lot of people know the word, but they don't actually know they don't know how to scale. They've heard it, I should say, but they don't actually know how to apply it. And scaling is very important, but along with scalability, there's measurement. A lot of times you have to do certain tactics and you got to measure the success of your campaign to know where you're going. Because a lot of the time we're like, I'm a former publicist. So I hired a PR, but was this the right time for your publicist? Are you
Mm,
in a position? Because I tell people everybody needs PR, but you don't necessarily, everybody needs a publicist, but you don't necessarily need a PR strategy right away. You can hire a publicist to help you get into a campaign with yourself, to help you understand your goals, your tactics, and the executions, and do a bit of it on your own until you get to a point where you're at a point where you need the media attention or you need the extra outsource. A lot of things you can do yourself, but understanding exactly your zone of genius. Like if I know I can write well, but I can't produce. If I want to be a singer, the best person on my team might be a producer to give me the quality of what I'm looking for. So I think it's understanding your zone of genius, measuring where you're at, setting goals for that, and then scaling up accordingly to what's working. Because you also talked about, you're going to go back and do the nights later in 2022, because that lets me know you have measured what was working and what hasn't, and said, okay, this is where I need to be to get me to this, because
yeah.
timing is also important. Now, timing is key. A lot of us want to be at point Z, but you haven't passed D yet.
Yeah.
But we can see Z, but we don't
Yeah.
realize that D has to be complete. So complete where you're at right now to move to the next, because then you will have to go back to A. And a lot of people are going back to the beginning because they didn't want to do the process, right?
Yeah.
And so let's talk about managers and management, because the one thing I know, and the one thing, everybody has manager horror stories, and or I can't work with this manager. Should A lot of independent artists, I find, are hiring their cousins, their homie from the block, to be their manager. And and it's different for everybody, but when it comes to hiring a manager, should that be one of the first people you get on your team, and what qualities would you look for in a manager?
If you want to scale and you want to be successful, then yes, you need a manager. If you are of a Drake level, yeah, you can hire your homie, because you have an influx of people coming to you, not the other way around. When you're working at a ground level, your cousin and your friend, if they don't have a certain network that they can actually barter off of, you can only get but so far. It's not about just somebody just answering the phone and throwing numbers and figures at people, but it's more so about how is their art of delegation. That's what I look for as far as within a manager, is how much can they delegate? Because here's the thing, manager, that within itself is the definition. They manage everything that you possess as far as within that brand. So with that being said, they are not there for you to borrow money. They are not there for you to pay for your trips and rental cars and none of that. That has nothing to do with management. That's all I'm saying. But what I will say is this. If you put it into perspective, if you, as an artist and as a creative, are a tire, right? Then a manager is some sort of hubcap, right? And on this hubcap, there's a whole bunch of spokes just out of everywhere, right? But in order for this wheel to function properly, that spoke and that thing in the middle that holds it together is your manager. So everybody wants to roll on the wheel because obviously there's potential there. There's some level of talent that people see, but it's just the wheel. And your job is to, whether that is to create content on social media, you need your manager that's there to delegate and to set expectations as far as for everyone that is a part of the team. You and your manager need to then have conversations, whether it's every day, every other day, whatever it is, in order for you to say, hey, like you said, measure to say, hey, this is where we were, this is where we want to go. How do we get there? Who do we delegate this power or these positions to in order to get it done? So the more people that you have on the team, the more of a balancing act that it will be for a manager. So I think that as long as artists are clear as far as on what they expect out of a manager, so before they even sign a dotted line with anybody, to say, this is my definition of what a manager is, and that manager can say, I agree with that, or I'm all with it, then that'll avoid a lot of the horror stories. Because I think it's just too much. It's too much of artists leaning on the managers to get something done when they're only there to balance what you're bringing to the table.
Absolutely.
The more that you have on the table, the more that they can manage and make sure that is, you know what I mean, maintained.
Of course. And I think, what you were saying was really important in terms of relationship building. I think people, especially independent artists, need to understand that you are in a relationship with your manager, whether you like it or not. And understanding, going through our expectations of what you expect from a manager and what you're also going to do. Because remember, your manager can't make you a star. They can help you along the process, but you still have to do the work. And I find a lot of people forget that, well, I hired a publicist, I hired a manager, they're supposed to make me a star. You're the craftsman. Your craft needs to be just as good, because your managers, publicists, other team members, they act as sales associates. If you think about it, our job is you're the product, we have to sell. But if the product isn't that good, or the product isn't working, we can't sell. your
Yeah.
product for you. And you also talked about, your manager needs to have, your manager also, in my opinion, is also like a connector. Who is their influence? They are also influencers. They need to be able to influence and sway decisions to get you into rooms and places that you couldn't get on your own. So really vetting your manager and seeing who they are and the power of influence they have, is very important, because somebody can talk a good game, but if they can't get you into a room to work yourself, because
Mhm.
their job is to open the door, you still have to work yourself and network and build that relationship, because people buy emotions. They're connected to your energy, they're connected to who you say you are.
Yeah.
So I love that you talked about that. Now, you went to college,
Mhm.
right? You went to
Mhm.
college for school. So what did talk to me? Did you go to school for music? And if so, even if not, how did your college career or college life help you become the artist you are today?
I mean, college did what you just spoke about, is networking.
Mm,
It helped to strengthen my ability to network in order to cultivate relationships and sustain them as well.
mm,
Touching base, keeping contact with people, making sure that they're good. Because it's just depending on where you come from as it pertains to like graduating from high school and going off to college. Everybody's at a different place. They're at a different level.
absolutely.
And for me, I was very, very shy, very, very meek. So I didn't have too much to say to anybody. I felt like, oh, my talent should speak for itself.
Mm,
And I would learn the lesson along the way that you have to say something, you have to speak up, you have to be able to engage with people in order for you to you know cultivate those relationships, those long lasting relationships. So I think that if college taught me anything, it allowed for me to grow, it allowed for me to gain that friendship and expand that network that I still use to this day. To be honest, I did go to a school of music, Berkeley College of Music, out in Boston. So that was a really like a very musical hub. But it allowed for me to just kind of keep in touch with people. But then
mm,
also like you also find out too, like, hey, I have to worry about my brain because I'm going to
mm.
school with geniuses and prodigies, and they've been in the limelight since 3 years old and all kind of craziness. And you like, I can't compete with that. So you figure out your own way as it pertains to making sure that your brand is one of a kind and unique to what you serve towards the industry.
I love that. It's looking at school, because education is obviously important,
Mhm.
but it's also outside of the education component. It's the practicality of what the experiences around you teach you. And I find all the situations we're in life are really about ourselves, how
Yeah.
we maneuver, and you grow through what you go through. And you won't.
Mhm.
I would never, just hearing you speak, and we met for the first time today. I would never think you're a shy person. You're very, 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 very well spoken. You seem very confident, not cocky, but you seem very confident in who you are and your abilities. So it's nice to hear that, that was a college was a transformative time for you
Yeah.
to grow into the man that you are today. And the beauty of that is you're still growing it through your music, through life experiences, and through your processes. And so, can you talk to us a little bit about your musical creative process? How do you come up with your music? What inspires you? How do you get
Mhm.
from up here to pen and paper
Yeah.
to the studio and then out to
Yeah.
the world?
I mean, my process is different where I feel like melody is king. So like I
Mm,
always have to have either a melody on my heart, my spirit, my brain, whatever. And then everything else from there, I go to the keys and figure it out, work on the beat, boom, then take it into Pro Tools and then just hash it out as it pertains to writing, and putting words to the melody. And
mm,
so honestly, even when I'm not inspired to write, what I do try to do is to create a space. I think every creative, whether you're a singer, rapper, writer, whatever, illustrator, you need to have a space within your house or your apartment that is specifically dedicated to your craft, no matter how big or small the space is. It could be literally in the corner of the room, but you need to have a space where you can then just completely zone out and be in tune with your craft. I was watching something on I want to say it was on Netflix called Abstract, and it went through a series of like creators and painters and all this stuff. And one thing that one of this graphic designers, he said, listen, when I'm not inspired, I still go to my desk every day with my coffee, and I allow for life, or you know what I mean, just whatever, you know what I mean, to inspire me. He's like, even if I'm not inspired, I'm there and I'm available to receive whatever comes to me. And I think that's important for us as creatives, is that we have to make room and be available for, you know, whether you believe in God or not, whether, you know, it's for inspiration to hit you, because it can hit you anywhere. You could be in a car, you could be out and about. But if you're so overwhelmed with things, if you don't even have a space to run to say, I'm inspired, let me go here, so then I can really hammer this thing out, so I can work this thing out. So please, if you haven't created a space for yourself, I'm not just talking about a studio that you have to rent out and pay for. I'm talking about a place within your house, that where you live, where you can get to it and continue to be creative. Even if you have writer's block, to be opportunity where it's at.
I love that, because you know what I'm hearing from you is the creative. Obviously, everyone's creative process is different, but what I'm understanding from you is find a space that allows you to be at your best potential when you're not feeling at your best potential. Because I was watching a master class last week, and I believe her name is Sarah. She's the lady who created Spanx. And one of the things she said was, for her, she found she got her best ideas while driving in the car. So even though she lives a 6-minute walk or 6-minute drive, sorry, from the Spanx headquarters, she gets up every morning with her driver or by herself and goes for a 2-hour commute before she gets to work. And that is her. And she always has a piece of paper beside her, because that's where she came up for the name. That's where she has all her ideas.
Yes.
So, you know, again, it goes back to measuring what we were talking about earlier, auditing yourself as well, and understanding what are your creative blocks and where do I find peace. For me, as a creative, my dad's an artist, you know, so I've seen him with the art and walking away. For me, my creative space is by water. So I used to live by the lake. So when I'm feeling frustrated with work or I need to regroup, I literally will go, cold or not, because I live in Canada, so we do get some snow over here. I either put my hands in the water if it's cold, or put my foot in the water and just stand and just kind of just be one with nature. And then all of the ideas come to me. So, you know, you guys, like Kevin was saying, find your creative space, whether that be, you know, a closet, whether that be a car, whether that be, you know, walking by the lake, whether that be skipping or coloring or dancing, whatever it is that allows you to be at your best potential, where your guards are down. I think that's where your guard is completely down. That is where you'll be most inspired. So I love, love, love hearing that. Now, um, describe your brand, the type of music you create. What kind of music do you create? Who are you a mix of? Or if you're a mix of anybody?
Ain't nothing new under the sun. I'm a fan of so many different artists, but I call my music kind of like, I mean, it's a bridge. Like, it's like I'm an artist where, like, I've studied my predecessors.
Mm.
I do enjoy living in the present, to be very clear, but I am paving the way for the future. And not just musically, but also business acumen wise as well, to let people know that you can be successful and be independent and be R&B as well. So, you know, those, I think, yeah, that's the best way, is to just say, like, you know, I'm an R&B bridge artist, in the sense that, you know, I multi-generational kind of sound. You know, I got the aunties, you know, I have some of my peers, you know what I mean, and a
I
little
love
bit,
it.
and Steve's a little younger, so yeah.
I have two questions. One, this is an off-topic question. Do you believe R&B is dead? Because I've been hearing. I have to ask. I am a true R&B lover, but I'm hearing R&B is dead, and I can't accept that. What are your thoughts on that?
Until hip hop artists stop singing, then no.
Whoa, wow.
So nah, not no 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 not like a, not like a thing like that. But I'm just
But it's
saying
not.
that, yeah, that's the only thing that changed. I mean, it's very. I mean, hip hop is very melodic, very
Absolutely.
melodic, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, so we can't, you know, we can't look at a ride wave and not think that
Mm,
that's not musical, right?
absolutely.
So Same thing with, Roddy Ricch. You know what I mean? It's so many. Travis Scott. They all use melody in order to heighten their song. It doesn't make it any less hip hop,
Of course.
but it doesn't not exclude R&B. Just because it doesn't have the content or the concept of what we know as R&B doesn't make it not R&B.
I
So
love that answer.
So no, R&B's not dead. It just had to, you know what? And I'm gonna say this: it was necessary for us to sit down. It was necessary for us to, take our silly ass back to the back somewhere. We're underground. We're underground for sure. It'll never die, right? But we're underground because of the fact that we took it for granted. We took the genre for granted. It got monotonous.
Yes.
The music didn't evolve. The front runners didn't help it, right? So they allow for us to go into this space. Now, granted, it's certain plaques that are on my wall where I didn't help it either. You know what I'm saying? Being a young writer and just trying to get on and trying to make some money, which I did. But when I look back at it in the grand scheme of it, to say, did we help the genre move forward? No. So we had to fall back. But in return, we get some of the great, robust R&B that we enjoy right now. So we have, without it taking a back seat, we wouldn't have SZA, we wouldn't have Summer Walker, we have Lucky Day, we wouldn't have any of these people. Victoria, we can go on and on as it pertains to musicality now. When people hear R&B, it feels different, it hits different. You know what I mean? We have to maneuver in a different kind of way now because of our underground kind of feel that we have. But when it hits, and when people find it, it just feels different than what it was 10 years ago, and I'm grateful for that. So
I really love that. And you said it earlier, you got to ride the wave. You can't stay in the past because the future is where it's at. So we can take remnants from the past and bring it back. But I agree with you. People keep saying it's dead, and I'm just like, I don't want to believe it. But I agree. We did have to take. I think we did have to take a seat back to really see what kind of music do we want. What kind of music is the world actually yearning for at this time? Right. The last question before we wrap up: what artists do you enjoy collaborating with? And if you could collaborate with 3 artists right now, any 3 artists, alive or dead, who would it be?
Yikes. Okay, let's answer the first one first. I enjoy working with everybody. I enjoy collaborating with as many people as I possibly can on this new project that I have coming out October 29th, which is called Drive. I have Rotimi and I have Afrobeat on the same record, which is really awesome. And it introduces me to Afrowave / R&B. And hopefully it'll introduce me on an international level and actually set foot on the continent of Africa for the first time. So I'm excited about that. They were really easy to work with, and I'm super grateful for them being on the project. But then also the second layer of the question is 3 people dead or alive who I either wanted to work with or, want to work with. And so I'm going to say Stevie Wonder by far. Damn, I wish, Prince, you know what I mean? I wish Prince was still here for sure. And honestly, probably like even Michael Jackson. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't even know if it's more so for like working or just more so just for having a conversation. You know what I mean? Like, and really understanding like that level of fame. You know what I mean? Like, your top 3 most known in the world, period. It's
Absolutely.
like Jesus, the Pope, Michael Jackson. You know what I'm saying?
I'm going to quote you. I'm putting that in my stories to Jesus, the Pope, Michael Jackson.
Michael Jackson. That's tough. That's tough.
I think Michael would be I'd want to understand his zone of genius, understand how he thinks and processes. Like, I think even just being around him for an hour would be inspirational to just see his work ethic. I lied about my one last question. Looking at your Instagram, it says Kevin Ross, it says artist, and then it says looking for love. Now, Kevin, let's talk about this. For the
Oh,
ladies, out
oh
there,
God.
is this a song looking for love, or are we? Is Kevin looking for love? What we doing?
It's it's a song, but
Okay,
it could be both for
okay,
sure.
okay.
Uh, but it's a song. It's a song. It's a song that we have out right now on the R&B charts. It is currently at number 14 on Billboard, which is awesome. 6
Amazing.
weeks in, so I'm looking forward to growing the top 10, top five, and then number one. So God willing, that all happens. But yes, looking for love is just a song right now. But
All right.
people can search
I had to ask. I thought, oh,
it.
sure. But let's claim it that you will be in the top 10. I claim and put that over you that you will get into the top 10 on the Billboard
Yes,
chart. For
yes,
those who don't know, please follow Kevin Ross Music on Instagram. Check him out on all of his accounts. He's right there. Tag him, follow him, check him out. Please support independent artists. Please support just the beauty of R&B because it does need to make a comeback, and to support him in general. So I want to thank you so much for being a part of Ride Con 2021, sitting down with me to talk about music. I love your energy. I love your thought process, King. I think you're a very smart young man with so much greatness coming towards you. And I cannot wait to continue to see you flourish in this career. So thank you for being a part of this today.
thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, you guys, thank you so much. Stay tuned to the other panels and conversations that we have going on today. This conversation will be in the replay stage if you want to check out and catch all the gems that Kevin was talking about. I am your host, Jackie Clarke, aka Is Well Connected, and I am out. Thank you.